Welcome to the #1 podcast in Rhode Island. This is Sean Brown, founder, owner, philanthropist of Move Mountains Co. We're doing it live.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Moving the Mountain, a creative leadership podcast. I'm your host, Sean Brown, owner of Move Mountains Co., a wedding film company here in Rhode Island. This is also the #1 podcast in Rhode Island as of lately. So great success there. Thank you guys for always tuning in, subscribing. This week we have Agent Kev, real estate mogul.
Yeah,
as you've been
that works.
Described on the podcast. So let's get right into it. Kevin, how you doing?
Well, let me tell you, Sean, I am doing phenomenal.
Well, actually, before we get into that, this week's episode is sponsored by Red Bull. Each
Gives you wings.
Each episode, we do a different beverage here. So crack into these bad boys.
Use a little more energy. Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's the stuff right
Fantastic. There. All right. So, Kev, why don't you give the listeners a little bit of a lowdown about what you do?
Sure thing, Shawnee B. So, my name's Kev, Agent Kev. I am in real estate. I've been in real estate for about the last 5 years. I started off as an investor, then became a realtor, helping others, and that's pretty much it. I own rental properties, I sell houses, and I live my life.
Right on. So, how many rental properties are you up to now?
Currently 5.
5. And how old are you?
26.
26. And when did you get into real estate?
Well, Sean, if you were paying attention. I'm just
jeez.
God.
Should we start over?
Take it from the top.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Moving the Mountain, a creative leadership podcast.
Now with our ears open. No, yeah, 5 years ago, when I was 21, I got my first duplex.
That's pretty good. So,
Yep.
As an entrepreneur, as someone who's 21, I'm 35. I haven't yet pulled the trigger on buying a house. For some reason, owning such a large asset is kind of like overwhelming to me. So what is that like? How did you end up like pulling the trigger on a property? And like, where did you get the knowledge as far as like, hey, this is a good investment, other than like people always saying like real estate's a good investment? Yeah,
so I actually, for a short time, I worked in IT, and I met this gentleman who was actually, it was funny, he didn't talk too much. He was a felon, actually. And for some reason, we were always put on jobs together or whatever, and, you know, I'd pretty much be talking to myself when we, you know, go to lunch and stuff like that. But one day, you know, I mean, I was working at this job. I was making pretty good money, and the idea popped in my head. I was like, hey, I'll buy a single family. I'll rent out the rooms, and, you know, it'll be a good way to get my first house. I mean, that kind of just randomly popped in my head, and for some reason, I started talking about it with this guy, and he's like, no, don't do that. You should get a multifamily. I have 3 units. I live in one with my girlfriend, rent out the other 2. And and it blew my mind, because he's like, oh, yeah, I live for free. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I didn't think, it didn't dawn on me. You know, I've never even, like, considered real estate. And, but he told me about that, and then he told me to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read that book, and it changed my life.
You know what's funny is I was on a family trip to Hawaii. I think I was about 23, and there was this old like bot service that like you could, I forgot the name of it, like you could ask a question to, like, what's the weather today? Or like recommend a book. And I was boarding the flight, or I was like maybe getting ready to board the flight, and I asked it to recommend me a book, and it recommended me that book, and I bought it, and I was like a little on the fence, because I think I had a different mindset about money growing up.
After reading it, you were on the fence?
Well, I think it exposed my mindset towards how I thought about money, where I always kind of thought about money, like having money as like almost like a bad thing. You're like a bad person, you know?
Right.
And so I was very uncomfortable reading that book. And I'm like, I just don't know if I like agree with this guy, you know? But he does talk a lot about real estate. And it's funny that we both read that book. And years later, people who, I look up to have like, oh yeah, that's a great book.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I mean, it changed. Yeah. It was definitely uncomfortable for me too, reading it. Cause I was just kind of like, oh my God. I'm like, why didn't I learn this sooner? That's kind of how I was like looking at it. And it blew my mind. I come from a kind of a blue collar background, work 9 to 5, put your money in a 401k, and, you'll be good in 40 years, 50 years,
Right.
So yeah, it blew my mind, like how much faster you can accelerate your financial gain and just your growth, through leverage. And that's really I feel like the book, what it really taps into is just opening your eyes. Cause it's not necessarily about real estate. It's more about the power of leverage and how you can use it to, to expand quickly. You condense your timelines.
Yeah. I remember too, I was working at Stop and Shop at that time and kind of feeling, I think, similar to you, like kind of coming from blue collar background where you're like, okay, I really got to put in my time here, 401k, all that stuff. And I'm more of a person of like passion where like I didn't really care about money too much. And I remember working this job and like with the money I was making, minimum wage at the time, still living at home, I was like, I have just as much money not working as I do working. And like, I couldn't get it. I was like, how do people do this every day? That was like unfathomable to me. Like people spend their lives like mostly unhappy doing things that they don't like to do, because they feel like this is just what you do. This is what
Right.
you have to do. And you kind of just fall into, and it's the same thing. I don't know where that comes from, societal pressure.
I want to make the
pressure.
point too, because I also feel like it gets a little demonized, the 9 to 5 life. And like, if you're doing because there are perks to it. Like, I mean, you being an entrepreneur, like you understand you're pretty much on call your entire life.
I mean, we're here, what time? We're recording after hours, 7 p.m.
Yeah.
I thought this place was going to be all set up. Josh, if you're listening.
You son of a...
But it can be frustrating.
Exactly.
There's a lot of pain points. Like
Right.
you're like grooming people, like you're training them up from the ground up.
Your responsibilities are a lot higher.
Right.
I mean, really.
And
any
your
employees can
risks are a
walk.
lot
Right.
higher. I'm sure your risks, compared to,
Right.
A 9 to 5 employee, like,
Yeah, I mean,
if
depending.
the banks wants to call your notes, like.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you look at risk. I mean, I look at it in a way, like people think I'm taking such huge risk. I think I'm probably taking the least amount of risk from the people I know, for the most part, probably other than like maybe you, because
Are you saying you're not taking risks
yeah. Well, I think I'm taking actually less risk.
than a 9 to 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because in certain ways, I mean, 9 to 5 provides you security, it provides you a steady paycheck, but if you're not investing it right, because you can get rich on a 9 to 5 too. I mean, you can climb the ladder. It depends what you do with your money.
You got to
If
invest
throw it
no
away,
matter what.
You have to invest. That's the key, no matter what you do. But the way I look at it, for me, I mean, I'm free. Like, nobody can fire me. I mean, banks calling back their notes. If I'm making my payments, they're not calling back the note. And if they do, I mean, the real estate backs it up. So, like, really, the only thing that could, and like, full disclosure, right? The only real risk that I have in my business, and I'm just speaking from owning real estate. I'm not talking from, selling real estate. That's different. But from owning it, rental properties, the only real risk I have is rent depreciation. If the rents go down, that's what's going to hit me.
Right. So you'll be a little upside down as far as, especially if your margins are tight, I guess.
Well, tight or not, just in general, like if rents collapse, like if we had like a Detroit situation where like the air, because that's really the only thing historically that can really bring down rents, because rents don't go down typically, even during a housing crash. They either stagnate or they go up. And the only thing that really can bring them down is if the area deteriorates. So, like they say with real estate, location, location, location.
Right.
So if you're buying in you're buying in a half decent location, or even if you're buying in a crappy location, the rents are already low. Like, you know what I mean? That's why there's really not a lot of risk there. So I'm willing to take that risk.
Yeah. And, I mean, I would agree with you there. Like, as far as like, I'm in a vulnerable position. You know, we're doing over 300 weddings. We have, you know, people on staff. Anything could happen. It's like the pandemic, right?
Yeah, but I
You
mean,
don't
people aren't
expect
going to
that.
stop getting married.
Yeah, but I think it's more just like, you know, employee turnover, things like that. You know,
Sure.
you could put yourself in a pinch, I think, pretty quickly. But yeah,
But
I'd rather be doing what I do than
Oh yeah. Well,
probably
the
anything
rewards are
else.
so much higher that
Right.
it's. I mean, for me,
And not to knock, like you said, not to
It's
knock a 9 to
fantastic.
5. Like, you know, I think there's something great about being able to go to a place every day. You know, you punch in, you punch out, you leave your troubles
and then
at the door.
Right. It's
you
at
know?
the. There's nobody calling you. There's nobody. Right. There's perks to it. There definitely is perks to it. But
I did send them a text message that things weren't set up.
Did you? Yeah. Shawnee Brown.
I should have slacked them though. Should have slacked.
What are you gonna do?
No, those guys are great though. They do a good job. What was the next thing I wanted to talk to you about? We were just talking about real estate, and I kind of lost my train of thought there. Let's just chill for a little bit. How was
Let's just chill.
Miami? No, don't talk about it.
Yeah, I was
Don't
gonna,
talk about it.
I can't talk too much about it.
Can't disclose it.
But it was a lot of fun. You know, good food,
Trip
friends.
of your lifetime. I'm a little jealous that you almost talk more about your trip to Miami than our trip to Costa Rica,
Well,
which was quite the endeavor.
the trip
That was one of the best trips.
It was phenomenal. No, I do talk about the trip to Costa Rica. I think with Miami,
It's a different trip.
It was different. Yeah, I mean Costa Rica was freaking amazing, but you know we were there a couple days. I mean, it was great. I don't even have any complaints about it. I thought it was hilarious. Everything went wrong.
It was very funny.
It almost made the trip better that every single thing
It wouldn't have
went
been the
wrong.
same, yeah.
It wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, it was.
And if anyone doesn't know, we went to Costa Rica for 2 days.
Yeah, we were also checking out some real estate, Yoko Village.
Yoko Village, shout out.
Which seems like a great development, but it's in the very early stages, it seems. But yeah, Agent Kev, we do some real estate, and we went down there to check it out. Unfortunately, missed our flights out of the gate, and then we had a charter flight off one of the islands.
You had Sanjay kicking your chair.
Sanjay on the flight. kicking the chair.
Sean, let me tell you, when Sean's a very patient guy. But when he reaches that limit, I seen him, we were on the plane, he's laying back in his chair, catching a sleep. Like, this is a long ass flight. We're probably going like 7 hours?
About 7 hours,
Something
yeah.
ridiculous. Sean's trying to catch a little shut eye.
I was
Okay.
tired.
And then we have this
Well, it's
lovely,
mostly because I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. I sold my car.
had to sell your car. Sean had to sell his car the night before
I
this
had
trip.
to sell it, yeah.
So, dude, I need it. He had to do it. Sean was just kicking back in his chair, trying to catch a snooze, and this fine Hispanic family behind us, one of them just starts beating his chair. We call him Sanjay. And Sean just whips around his hair. Like, he has this crazy hair. Like, he was like this, like asleep. He's like... flips around. He's like, can you stop kicking my shit? And the kid's like, ¿Por qué? Hola. And then, like, the mom doesn't know, like, they don't speak any English.
God.
And then he just continued beating his seat. Sean's a real patient guy, but when you get him there,
God.
yeah, no, that was great. What else did we do? We flew that Jurassic Park plane.
Yep.
Bartering. Oh, get this. So me and Sean both had the same idea. So it was very interesting. We both went on this trip very underprepared. I mean, we almost actually ditched the whole thing for a BLT
Yeah, that's true.
for lunch.
Oh, we can actually pause. 'Cause, our assistant is here.
Why pause?
Oh, yeah, bring her in. Bring her in.
Grab a chair.
Tiana.
Come on, Tiana.
I was suffering from a headache, and I just...
Sean needs his blue chew.
All right. Have employee problems? Try Aleve. Advil.
Yeah, that's Advil.
What should I take of these?
Dos. Tiana, come on in. Pull up a
It's not even
chair.
recording. Just come on in.
It's not even recording.
How many do you take of these? too.
Come on in. Oh, the best podcast, you don't prepare.
All right.
What's in this thing?
All right, we were making a lot of headway with the real estate stuff, so
A whole lot of headway.
let's kind of jump back into that.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad, we talked about passions a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see myself doing, anything other than what I'm doing. I'd rather be an entrepreneur, but I do think, we're kind of hating on the 9 to 5. I do feel like there is value in that. You get to leave your problems at the door, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty nice.
Everybody has their own kind of personality. I mean, it's the amount of uncertainty you can live with. For me, I can live with a high amount of uncertainty. I mean, now it's getting better because, I have, excuse me.
I think your threshold, too, for uncertainty grows.
True, right. The irony is the uncertainty becomes more certain as you get used to it. Like, I'm used to not getting paid right away, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that could be like the hardest part at first, where it's just like, all right, where's my next check coming from? Am I going to be able to afford?
And I think, too, if you're really serious about it, the sooner you burn the ships, the better. I left my steady paying jobs a little before. I mean, you don't want to be stupid, but I left them a little before I was ready. And for me, putting your back against the wall, it's, it makes you work a lot harder. You're not going to my mantra to myself is like, I'm not going to let myself be homeless. So I keep, and I still do it now. Like, even though I'm like, it's picking up
So some kind
now.
of spiritual practice? Your mantra? I believe
My
it's
mantra.
pronounced mantra.
Mantra, tomato, potato.
You ever see that movie where he's just like, he calls his spiritual guru and he's just like, I forgot my mantra.
I haven't, Sean. I don't watch movies. Next question.
Nice. So, someone looking to get into the space of real estate, as this is a creative leadership podcast, right? We really want to equip people. What would you say is like the first steps? Maybe that was it. Burn the ships, right? Is that the first way to kind of get started?
No, you don't want to torch the ships when you're completely like green.
Oh, okay.
First, you want to learn what you're doing. There's a lot of resources out there. I mean, connect with people, but also like online, like honestly, YouTube University. There's a lot of, especially now, there's a lot more resources online to learn from. Before I even bought my first property, I spent about a year reading books and watching videos and learning the numbers down to the T. Because the more you know your stuff, because real estate's it's not, the important part of real estate isn't the buildings, it's the people. It's a people business. You're going to need people to grow. You're going to need people to maintain it.
What do you mean by people?
Like, you're going to need your relationships. Like, you're going to need...
So your management company, things like that?
Not even just like that. I mean, yes, that's part of it, but also like getting the money, relationships with your banker, friends, family. You really don't know where the money's going to come from, by the way. And a lot of people have hangups with working with friends and family, like, oh, I won't do that. I can't borrow my parents' money. Well, you're doing yourself and your family a disservice by doing so. I'm not saying borrow it for free. Give them money. Pay them interest. I mean, if they have, or you borrow their credit. That's another thing too. That's how I got started, really, was borrowing credit. You borrow other people's credit and then pay them for it. It's like, okay, yeah, like, I mean, it has to make sense. The deal has to make sense. You want to frame it like, yeah, like, and so if you're in their shoes, they're like, okay, I'm going to give this person money that's not even mine to make money for doing nothing. Because that's essentially what it would be.
Right.
In certain cases, if you're, like for me, the way I got started, I borrowed against my parents' house. So that's kind of how it was. That's how I got my first property.
That's pretty good. Like, that's...
And they got paid.
Yeah, they took a risk on you. But it's like, that seems very risky, right? You bring that up.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, I borrowed against my parents' house. So your parents let you borrow against their home.
Yes.
Right? And maybe you pay them a certain amount of interest.
Yep.
You
Still.
say that, and to me, it even was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Don't
well,
sound too bright. No offense.
No, I know.
No.
I'm just...
But parents will co-sign a college.
I know. I know that's the funny thing. But you know what's funny with my parents? They didn't co-sign for my college. Like, and nothing, nothing against you. Love you, mom and dad. Like, I wouldn't expect them to. But it's exactly what you're saying. Like, people think my parents took such a big risk, in investing in me, like to buy this property, rehab it, and refinance all that good stuff. But I'm like, there's actually very low risk here, because worst case scenario was, and I told them this. I said, look, they're like, oh, what if the tenants get evicted, blah 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 blah. What if you can't do it? I'm like, okay, fine. I renovate the property. I'll sell it. I showed them the comps. I showed all the numbers, right? Mm. Renovate it, sell it. You guys keep every dime of the profit. I won't take a single penny. You keep everything, and you'll do nothing, and then that'll be it.
It's funny. Sometimes I think, like, we've had interns kind of come and go, and I think about it the same way, with parents, they co-sign in college, right? But it's just like a camera is like $7,000, It's like it's a good investment. If your son or daughter's like interested in photography,
yeah,
like that's a good investment. Like a camera is a good investment. Like, I feel like investing into your kids in like really practical ways. I don't have any kids, but from the outside looking
Sean's parenting advice.
Yeah, this is moving them out in a parenting podcast.
Parenting podcast. Two
Rhode
men
Island's
with no
#1.
kids.
But
we're gonna tell you how to raise yours.
Sounds pretty accurate, though.
Yeah. Yeah,
Let's switch gears a little bit, right? We want to talk about the personality, which is Agent Kev.
Agent Kev.
Which I think it's a little bit different. It's a much more millennial-like kind of type of branding that you've done for yourself. It's like this weird wild party boy. It's not professional at all. It's very unprofessional.
Yes, sir.
You're shirtless a lot of the times in a lot of these posts, and I'm like, yo, who's hiring this guy as their real estate agent? It's kind of weird.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, honestly, like, I'm a goofball. I've been a goofball my whole life.
I love that, though. You were able to like integrate your personality,
right,
into your persona, like for your business.
Right.
You don't have to be anybody other than you when you show up, right? And you are very personable, right? So it's just like, but
thank you.
But you really you play it up, on social media.
Well, for me, it's very natural. And like when I started, I tried doing the whole professional route, like kind of, I think some of my earlier videos and stuff, I tried the whole professional thing, like, kind of putting the tie there and and just being very like, I don't know, it just wasn't me, and it was boring. People weren't watching. You know what I mean? I mean, the thing is, it's like, you got to know what you're doing. Like, when I'm sitting down with a client, like, I'm not sitting there with my shirt off. So, contrary to popular belief.
That's an extra fee.
Well, depends on who the client is. No, I'm just kidding. It's probably a fair housing violation. No. Hey, you want to buy a house? No. No, but I mean, it's like a good balance, and I feel like I achieve that balance between, because I mean, people appreciate it too. They like to have fun, and when things are entertaining,
yeah, absolutely.
I find people learn more when they're entertained first,
and I feel like it establishes trust.
Yeah, well, they know you're being real,
right?
It helps,
and I feel like that when it comes to a real estate agent, or someone who's going to sell you like a car. You want to feel like the person's straight up and like you're getting like the real deal.
And people appreciate it. And it's also, I mean, it's nice too when you're like being different. What I saw, excuse me, damn Bajas.
Shout out to Bajas.
Great place. Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of people, and nothing wrong with it, right? I mean, you should be professional, especially if that's who you are. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to be who you are. And if it's, if it's more like the others than less or whatever, doesn't matter. The more authentic you are, the better you'll be.
Yeah, I think with the brand really has to like ring true to who you are. Like authenticity is like one of the most important things. And I felt like that was the most important thing, building my brand was like authenticity.
Right.
Like I wanted to feel true to myself. And I was able to actually channel the brand as a form of self-expression, which is huge. And I think it's really important. I think it's like an overlooked aspect of human nature is just like self-expression.
Right.
And I feel like you do like a great job with that.
And people can sense bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like when you're not like being yourself or you're not being who you are. And here's the thing. I mean, you're going to have haters. It's not like everybody likes what I do. A lot of them like.
Oh, I saw the comments, especially on that TikTok.
Oh yeah, TikTok. They
were roasting this.
They were roasting my
What did they say about? What was the exact comment? Can we bring it up, Jamie? Can we bring it up?
Jamie. I know we need a Jamie.
We do need a Jamie.
Tiana. Tiana should be here right now.
Oh, you're actually gonna bring it up?
Oh, do you want me to?
No,
I don't have to.
Bring it up.
Yeah, they're like, what do they say? I actually love these. I actually like unstable internet connection here in Move Mountains. Someone must be stepping on our Ethernet cable in the parking lot.
All right, let's see.
But anyway, yeah, they're just basically like, if you're spiking your hair at, I don't know. Oh.
Should I bring it up? What's your name on? Is it Agent Kev on TikTok?
No, it probably should be, but it's Kpels.
Kpels. That's unmemorable. That's
yeah.
hard to
Well,
find.
when I originally made TikTok, I wasn't expecting to really use it. It was just kind of like a jackass profile, but now
All right,
it's.
I found you here. 8,000 followers. That's pretty good.
We're working
You
on
went
it.
viral with one of those videos.
I did.
Some of them, like,
Which that video is correct.
the fact that like people thought it was bad information, I felt helped it get more views. Like that got 2.6 million views.
Yeah. Yeah, they
We should have really started with your credentials. But
didn't we? You asked me how
it's
long
too
I've been in
late.
real estate.
Yeah, but kind of some of this stuff would be pretty good. So yeah. So should I read some of these comments?
Yeah, go ahead.
This man has no idea
there
what
any
he's talking
tissues?
about.
Quite frankly.
Very bad info. You did a good job responding to these.
Rave reviews.
Keep spiking your hair, bud.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the best one.
Oh, dude. That fucking guy, I loved it.
Mostly incorrect. Leave the financing advice to a lender. These are funny.
Although, you know what was interesting? I got a lot of hate on it at first, and then the people that actually realized what I was talking about, I felt they started coming in later. And then they started fighting with each other in the comments. It was hilarious. Just kept blowing it up.
Yeah, it helps it.
Yeah, I like didn't even have to, like I was responding to them at first, and then, I mean, it just became so many. I made a thread, though.
I had an idea. I pitched it. I'm not sure if you went with it. But I was like, you should just actually put out something that's intentionally wrong to see to see how how it does. Something just crazy.
I actually thought about that, like just like releasing misinformation.
That's
releasing like a satire, obviously, like
Right.
releasing misinformation in like a professional way. Like use one FHA loan, then use another one right after. Don't do that. Wait a year. You got to live there.
I love how you actually like talk to the person.
Yeah.
You, like let them know.
We're talking to you. Yeah, no. Yeah, I thought about that, like kind of doing that. But, you know, I was like, ugh. The thing is, if I wasn't, you know, the problem with that is I could get in trouble with like some fair housing stuff. Because believe it or not,
okay,
I am
yeah.
still a professional. I am a
Right.
realtor. So there's like, you know, there's lines I got to walk a little bit. You know, I don't want to like, you know, if I wasn't a realtor and I just wanted to go like full like comedy mode, that would be
Right.
fantastic. It would be hilarious.
So you
but-
could actually get like kicked off. Or like lose your realtor.
Yeah, I could get, you know, I might get into some trouble, or you know, it's a possibility. You
Yeah.
know? So,
All right, yeah, don't take that advice.
but it is funny. It is funny.
What good is a TikTok following if you can't make a living? Unless you make a living from the TikTok following.
That's a thought. That is a thought. I know. I do like making those like goofy videos.
Have you been keeping up with it?
Well, like on
The
a
TikToks?
consistent. Not really. Not as much as I should. You know, I've gotten better, but definitely not as much as I should. See, I'm not. The thing is, I'm still kind of like, to me, it's more of a hobby. You know, I'm not as consistent with that as I probably should be. But, I write ideas down in my phone, and
Yeah.
I'll get to it.
So what's next for Agent Kev? Like, what are some of your goals here?
Well, at the moment, 25 doors by September.
25 doors by this September?
This September.
How many are at right now?
17.
Okay. Doors,
Yeah,
so,
not 20, not plus 25.
okay.
A total of
So
25.
that's achievable. I mean, you could do like another 7 unit.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So that's what I'm aiming for short term.
What do you aim, like, how much cash flow per door? Like, what's your...
I figure, like, I mean, it depends on the property too. If there's more doors in one property.
But like on average, so like what would you say? Is it 300 a door?
I'd say like 300. If I had to just like kind of ballpark a number, like 300. Yeah.
And some are obviously a little bit higher, some are a little bit lower.
Right.
Yeah.
Like 300 minimum.
300 minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of like real estate right now? Because I think, it's so, like the prices are so astronomical.
Right.
Do you think Rhode Island's still a good buying place, or do you recommend like other locations like out west or something like that, Midwest?
See, the thing is, for me, it depends less on the real estate and more on the person buying it, right? So one metric we'll talk about, age, okay? If you're younger, if you're in your 20s, you have a much longer timeline than someone who's like, say, 60, right? So there's an old adage in real estate, you don't wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait. And the reason is because over the long term, you can expect it to compound about 3.5% per year. Like if you look at real estate through all the crashes since like they started recording it like 1900, on average, I mean, obviously this last year's been crazy. It was like, up 18%. That's not normal and don't expect that. But yeah, I mean, you have time for it to mature and for it to, because in 20 years, you're like, there's no doubt in my mind you'll be up on it. So, excuse me.
18, with it going up 18%, like, is it just, it makes sense, right? That it's going to come down a little bit before it starts going up again?
I mean, it's hard to say when. I mean, if you could have asked me that same question a year or two ago, or a year and a half ago, and I would have said, yeah, right? But I mean, I think at some point, it's hard to say. I left my crystal ball at home, but it's hard to say because there's so many factors that are involved. And it's not like everyone's like, 10 years ago it crashed. The reason it crashed 10 years ago was because it was predatory lending. It's a completely different reason why the market is where it's at. And the thing is, it's most people, they have fixed rate mortgages. They know where they're at monthly. So even if the market goes down, if there was going to be a market crash, right? Any market crash, there has to be a mass sell-off and a forced sell-off. So like, for instance, 10 years ago, they were getting these adjustable rate mortgages for like, 2%, but then, the rate goes up to market value in a year or so, right? And what happened was there was a mass exodus of that happening at once. And that, that jumps your monthly payment up, hundreds, if not thousands, depending on how much you spent on your property. And, it blew, and if you
So these were variable rates they were giving out.
Oh, yeah. And then it
now,
blew,
to me,
it blew it
you
up.
hear a variable rate, I feel like that would be a red flag. I wouldn't take a variable rate.
Yeah, you'd think so. Yeah, but they did. They still offer them. I have one on one of my properties. But
Really?
You got to know what you're doing. Yeah. It's an ARM. So it's fixed for every it's a 3-year ARM. Fixed for every 3 years. So in 3 years, well, now it's less, but every 3 years it goes to market. But that's a different, I would never recommend that for anybody. That's for the condo. So it's a different kind of investment.
Okay.
Yeah. I have very variable pricing, so I was comfortable taking on that risk with the variable rate. Typical rental, this is in Florida, this is a vacation condo. So like it's a hotel pretty much, so like rates can change by the day. So and there's but I would never recommend that for for other people like in your typical investment.
I got one more question, and then we're gonna just cut on the cameras, and I gotta re-up the cameras. But with inventory being so low, do you feel like some of these innovations that are happening, like you hear Boxable, Boxable is like basically $50,000. It's like these I think they build them in like a warehouse and they ship them out to you.
Oh, those are the mini homes?
They're like these mini homes that like
Home
they
Depot has
unfold
those,
in a
right?
couple hours. Yeah. Then you have like Coda Homes, another kind of cool brand. I think that's like a European brand, but they have like very modern. They're small. Those are like tiny, like little boxes.
Yeah.
And then you got another one was Kudo, and I think there was another one. But then you hear of like 3D printing home. Like, do you feel like we're gonna be moving into any of that type stuff with inventory being so low, and like Airbnb kind of being quite the thing?
I mean, I'm sure there's a market for it. I can't see a family growing up in something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I think it could be I think it very well could be a market for kind of like even like millennials or like people who don't have.
What I struggle with is just like the idea of spending $500,000 on a home that's 150 years old, and falling apart.
But you're not spending $500,000.
What are you spending?
100,000.
How do you figure?
Well, you're only putting 20% down. The bank puts up the rest.
Well, eventually you're paying that off, though.
Well, it depends how you do it. I mean, if it's your own home, sure, right? But if it's an investment property, or if you move out and you rent it out, you're not. But I mean, when you say a 150-year-old home for $500,000, I mean, that's not really realistic. I mean, it depends. I mean, unless it's a big home, it's a huge.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at 3 families on like the west side, and you're at 500-600 for
3 families.
1900s home.
Yeah, I mean that's
1900s.
the market. That's the market if they've been well maintained. I mean, right. The numbers have to make sense. The numbers have to make sense with the rents, and prices are high. I mean, don't kid yourself. Like prices are high. If anybody's like, oh, well, like no, they are. Will they go higher? I mean, long term, I would say yes. Like I'm still buying real estate. I just got, everyone's like, oh, the market, you can't find deal, whatever. I just bought 2 in the last 4 months, and then 1 even in last February, not last year, February. So like, but again, I can also tolerate a lot of risk because I'm young in my 20s. I feel like a lot of people in their 20s are too risk adverse. It's like they're afraid to lose. I'm like, especially when you're going like FHA, right? You're putting down 3.5%. What do you have to lose?
Right.
Like even if you walked away from the house, like I don't recommend you ever do that, but like unless you willingly really walked away from the house, you don't really lose. Like with a $300,000 house, say, or 400,000 today, whatever, you're putting down 10, 15 grand. I mean, your money's it's not like a stock. It's not going to hit zero. I mean, even if your house gets nuked, well, maybe not nuked, but like, if it blows up, your insurance covers it. Like there's not really a scenario unless I'm not that there's not work involved, there can be work involved, but there's not really a scenario where you get completely screwed. And all you're putting up is, I'm not trying to say it's like not a lot of money, but you're controlling a $400,000 asset for just 15 grand. And if you do the math, right, it goes up 3.5%. Cause I still believe that like long-term, 3.5% long-term. I mean, we'll just say 300,000, that's like, around 9 grand a year. Right. So if you put down 10 grand, we'll just say 300,000, you put down about 10 grand to purchase it, and it goes up 90, it goes up 9,000 in your first year. Like that's a killer return. And if it's a multifamily, you're not even the one covering the payments. That's never mind any cash flow, any tax benefits. People don't realize the true return of real estate. They just look sometimes just right at the cash flow and then just like, right. Oh, it's not a lot of cash flow. It's like, yeah, I mean, the market's very high. So like that play, I mean, that's what's been used in the beginning of the decade is the heavy cash flow. But like now it's not as much. It still can be out there, but you kind of sacrifice cash flow.
It's a much
in the
more
short
long-term investment.
Yeah, and rental appreciation. Don't forget, rents go up over time. Like there's so many ways, and your debt goes down, like, and your payment stays fixed, assuming you get a fixed rate. So it's like, if you can wait it out, especially in your 20s, like who gives a shit about passive income? I mean, passive income's great, but you shouldn't be relying on passive income in your 20s. You shouldn't be relying on it. I'm not saying you shouldn't be building it, getting it prepared for when you're ready to start kind of relaxing. But you need to get in the game. And the irony is, it's like everyone waiting for the market to crash, right? Like, say people who haven't bought their first property and they're waiting for the market to crash. You think you're going to get the opportunities? Like, someone who's not in the game, who doesn't know what they're doing. Because even if you get in, you start, you start realizing you start learning about like real estate. You start learning what the problems are. People who stay on the sidelines, you're not learning about the game and you're not building relationships. The biggest jump for someone wanting to be an investor, it's not your fifth to sixth property. It's your none to first. It's your first property, because then you are officially an investor and you officially start learning the game, and you actually start to understand what you're talking about in terms of like, what can go wrong, renovations, tenants, all that good stuff. And it makes it easier. The first one's the hardest, and then it only gets easier. You start building more relationships. People start trusting you more. And when people start trusting you more, you start getting more access to more resources, and it snowballs. So like for me, the way I look at it, like in my position, I have 5 properties. I'm not taking over Rhode Island by any means right now, you know what I mean? But like I have a modest portfolio. I could care, like the market could keep going up, the market can come down. I'm not afraid either way. If the market, I just keep trying to look for good deals, no matter what that looks like. If the market goes down, my mortgage rates are fixed. I just don't sell. They're fixed. I don't sell, and the rents don't change. Again, as long as the rents don't go down, which historically they haven't, and I don't expect them to, I'm good. I just keep doing what I'm doing. I keep looking for deals. That's it.
Yeah, so you're fairly insulated because of the data that you have. Mm-hmm. It's a good way to go about. It's pretty safe.
Yeah.
And I think data is definitely like such a crucial part of any business.
Yes.
When you can look at the data and make projections, and it also like is calming at times, right? You're having, our business, right? When things are a little bit down, we look at past data. Hey,
right.
is April a notoriously low month? Is, May a notoriously low month for leads, whatever it is. So it really helps you make decisions. And I think kind of with any investment, that's it's important looking at the data. All right, welcome back. We're here still with Agent Kev.
Yes, sir.
Rhode Island's really good real estate agent.
Really? Rhode Island's bad boy.
We might crack open number 2 pretty soon.
It's getting a little crazy.
It is getting a little crazy in here. But we want to start off and kind of cover relationships in business and how relationships affect business. And I mean personal relationships. So I'm going to give Kevin the floor here and, maybe jump right in.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I think for the most part, again, if it's something you really love and it's something you want to do, I think it positively affects them in a lot of ways. At first, it takes away a lot of your time, but once it gets going, I feel like you get a lot of that time back. Once you establish systems, that kind of thing. But I mean,
what are you talking about?
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like spending time with like, say like a significant other, right?
Okay.
Like, if you're like if you're working, a 9 to 5 or more than that, it's a lot of time spent away from your spouse, right? But
one hardship that I kind of realize when you're self-employed, right, is and you're in a relationship, you the partner can sometimes think like you're kind of available all the time.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to keep normal office hours, so it's like to not be, spending time, could be like, but you have to block off those hours where it's like,
right.
Hey, these are work hours. Like, you got to kind of respect these boundaries. And that can happen with like, anything. You kind of got to be disciplined too and kind of set up those boundaries.
Yeah, that's something I've definitely struggled with, because sometimes, I haven't gotten to the point where everything's very automated. Like I'm still pretty much a one-man show for the most part. Aside from, hiring like contractors, that kind of thing, like in terms of like business, like I'm my own manager, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, especially starting out, like you can get pulled in many different directions and at random times. And I mean, that can be a point of tension, or contention with, a partner, right? Like you're supposed to have like a dinner planned. All of a sudden, a pipe bursts or whatever, or like just something happens.
Right.
I mean, again, once you become more established, it's easier to, it's more just a phone call rather than you going there.
Right.
But, you have to have somebody who understands what you do, understand that you don't punch a clock and therefore you're
only
on
that,
call.
like you work more hours typically when you're, self-employed where,
Yeah.
I remember being
Especially
at the studio
in the beginning,
till
especially.
midnight, 1:00 in the morning, a lot of nights. And just kind of grinding,
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Once you start getting systems, it's like you buy back your time. Like it becomes a game of time, and that's kind of like an interesting dynamic between kind of like employees versus like kind of like the employers, right? You learn to buy back your time. Time is more important than money. You can make infinite amounts of money.
Right. If you don't
only have a finite amount of time.
Right. That's true.
So the more systems you have, you want to streamline your streams of income, and I think in doing so, it really benefits all any personal relationship you have. Like it's nice. Like I've kind of just gotten to the point where like now, I do have like kind of a lot of time. I mean, depending on how you look at it, I do have a lot of like free time more or less. So it's nice to be available, or it's easy for me to move things around if I have to.
What's funny is like the ebbs and flows. Like I remember in the beginning days, it was like I didn't have any time. Every hour was devoted to the business, right? From like the moment I got up to the moment I went to bed, thinking about it when I wasn't at the office, whatever it was. And then as you start to bring in people, right, and people start to, you just take your time and you kind of devote it to other things,
right?
But I have found that, maybe this is a little bit off topic, but I have found that the more people you have, the more slowly things move.
Interesting.
It
slowly in terms of what?
It just moves, or at least it feels more slowly, because when you're a one-man operation, you're doing everything. So your results are directly related to your efforts, right? But now you delegated responsibility, so now those are actually dependent on the efforts of others and how quickly they move. And I don't think anyone's ever really going to move as quickly as you, and also as like you scale, like things just kind of move, I think, a little bit more slowly. I could be wrong.
No, I mean, it's a good point. I haven't personally got there yet. I'm just starting to now, where I'm starting to look for more hands on deck to help. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like if you think, like say, as a metaphor in terms of boats, right? Mm-hmm. How easy is it to turn a little speedboat versus a ship? Right.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's like we added this podcast recently, and it's not just as easily as like, all right, we're just gonna bootstrap and throw it together. It's like you got a bunch of people, you got systems. Everyone has to like adhere to the systems, the importing, the exporting. It's all got to go through a process. It's like a chain of command, and it's not as simple as it once was.
Yeah, well, and I feel like too, it becomes interesting. It goes from kind of like a vertical movement where like you're doing every task like happens in order, to tasks happening at the same time. So like maybe they're moving a little slower,
right?
But they're happening together.
Right.
So it
Everything's
it creates more productivity. So so I believe that.
But back to relationships, and I don't know how personal you want to get, but a lot of these viewers, they want to know.
They want
to know. We need the inside scoop. But I think relationships. I think it can be very challenging for a self-employed individual, because it's not just about you. Right. You got to kind of like give your time, give of yourself, which is nice about being young and single. And it's like you know, if you want to work 15 hours a day, you can do that, you know?
Right. It's only your mouth you got to, well, assuming you don't have kids.
Right.
It's only your mouth you got to feed.
Right. I mean, you can be single and have kids.
Well, that's why I said assuming you don't have kids.
What are you saying?
I don't know exactly what I said. To hell with all the single moms. No, I'm just kidding.
You said a few things that I think we're going to have to cut out.
Oh, come on, Shawnee. I didn't
People
say
come
anything
back
about
8
that.
years later, they'll be like, I found this episode.
Oh, stop it.
You know, cancel culture is real, and
Yeah, that's all
they'll
right.
come for you.
Good. Bring them on.
So, yeah, but I think it can really, some relationships can really take away. I think some could probably like support the vision.
It
and really
depends,
kinda,
right?
Depend on what their
It
buy-in
depends
is.
on their personality. You know, I think, you know, it depends on the other person's level because, like, their level of uncertainty. Like, it's almost like how much can they handle?
Right. That's actually a really good point. I
Like,
mean,
it's
probably
not-
more if you're. That's probably more if you're married. You know, what's their
Well, married
thresholds.
or even like if you're living with the person. I mean, it's just it's right. I mean, it matters definitely more when you're married, you know, but even like if you're, you know, in a relationship, you're living together, you start.
Yeah, it's
you
like
know,
I gambled away our savings on some Tesla stock.
some friggin' Dogecoin. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I found I mean, that's kind of why I do what I do because I want to be there for, you know, my family in the future. So
You know, my mom bought Dogecoin.
how'd you make out?
She did not do well.
She
I
rode the
remember I was
Doge at the
talking.
wrong
I was
time.
in the group chat, the Stonks group chat with like you and Brett and all those guys.
You know, can
And
I
I
can I
put up
disclose how much you? Yeah,
was
all
it
right, go ahead.
30,000?
Yeah, it was 30,000.
30,000 on Dogecoin.
If you left it, you almost had to leave it. You
I
couldn't
was
get it
stuck.
out. Yeah, the trading volume wasn't there. Sean's like, I put 30,000 in. We're like throwing in like, what are we threw in like a few hundred here and there. Sean's like 30 grand. Sean's like, I love that golden dog, that golden Shiba.
What kind of dog is that?
I want one. Walking in with a Doge.
Oh, I was pacing around my
Sean,
apartment.
I have to say, Sean,
What?
one thing I really love about you is the way you handle shitty stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I have some kind of resilience for it.
Wait, can I disclose the other thing or no? Is it too
I think
much?
I'm under some kind of NDA. But
Oh,
what
is
is
it?
what is the other thing?
Well,
we're thinking
if
the
I
same
don't,
thing.
I won't mention an amount. It's with the, you know, trading the stocks.
Yeah.
Can I-
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
What
think
if I
am
li-
some kind of under some kind of.
I'll leave like key info out, or
Yeah. Well, we'll have to. Yeah, you could say it, and we'll have to really be careful about this episode.
all right, yeah. I won't no name dropping or any like or figure amounts or nobody knows what we're talking about because you know maybe it happened a few times.
Before you go there, let's talk about this Dogecoin.
Sounds like sharp left. Let's get off this road.
Let's talk about the Dogecoin. So we're in this group chat where I think I don't know if it was on one of your recommendations getting Dogecoin. I think it was at like 17 cents,
It wasn't
like
one of
17, you know, and it went up to, I think I wrote it all. I think I put a couple thousand and I wrote it all the way up to like 80 cents.
Yeah,
86 cents.
The Doge was just a friggin' crapshoot.
I was talking to my dad and I was like, I gotta go.
I gotta go. I know, dude. I was like running around my friggin' house with little beefy Brett. Shout out Beef Tits.
But then, I got too aggressive
Like
and I couldn't get out.
you couldn't get out.
I couldn't get out. I was
Sometimes
trying
once
to
you get
sell
in,
that. I
you can't
couldn't.
get
I
out.
could not get out.
Sean was like, please, somebody buy 30 grand worth of Dogecoin.
I need to
What
get
a
out.
surprise. Nobody. Yeah, it started going down. Everyone jumped ship.
Well, I think I had
If you left that, I think you were, when that was happening, it was like trading at like 4 cents. It was like, it was
Yeah.
bouncing between like 4, I think was the
Oh,
high.
that's right.
Oh, don't even try to do the Dogecoin math. It'll drive you nuts. But
Because we were kind of early on that, yeah.
yeah, it was the first ride up. You know who was really early?
But it did come back down before it went up.
You're right.
I would have really had to ride out those losses.
Right, you'd have to ride out the losses. Oh yeah, you would have been.
I would have had hundreds of thousands though.
Well, you would have 10x your money. Yeah, so 300. at 40 cents. I think it went all the way up to like 70, 80. So you probably, let's just say 80. Sean Brown had the opportunity to turn 30 grand into 600 grand.
That's crazy.
If only you were a gambling man, Sean. If only
I need
you
to
were
go
a gambling
upstairs.
man. I need to go upstairs. But you know what's funny about that, though? Just a little side piece about the Doge. If you invest that way, and this isn't investing advice, I'm not a financial whatever. But, like, I find, like, if you invest that way like that, like, yeah, you might win. You might be the lucky guy that bought a shit ton of GameStop and, became a millionaire or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you invest like that on a regular basis, it's not going to last long. You're going to lose it. If it's just a crapshoot and you're just riding random waves without any, like, real forethought other than, like, ooh, look at it go up.
Yeah, chasing stocks, I learned the hard way, is not the way to go. I think I had $20 in Dogecoin in like July of 2020, and for some reason, like I just bought it, and that would have been worth, I think, like hundreds of thousands. Just that $20 investment if I had left it in there. But it didn't make sense to sell $20 worth of Dogecoin, right? But I did, and it was just because I sold off my entire portfolio. I just wanted to cash out, and that was just one of the stocks in the Robinhood account that I was just like, yeah. Doing stuff. But it's $20. I should have just left it in.
Well, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I mean, honestly, Dogecoin shoot. Yeah, it's if you're chasing shit like Dogecoin, you're not gonna last long anyway. It is what it is. Like, yeah, you could have left it, but like, what were the real odds of that happening? Very, very slim.
Yeah.
I know. Well, hindsight's always 20/20. We all don't need glasses when we're looking back, right? So,
where'd you get these age-old sayings? Who gave you these?
I actually just came up with that. Well, not the.
You had the crystal ball one. You had some other ones.
Yeah, I live by metaphors. I read the internet. The internet wouldn't lie to me.
Like a box of metaphors. You're a box of atoms.
I love metaphors.
Is it atoms? No.
What's atoms?
Yeah,
the smallest cell form.
No, like sayings. What is it? What's the word for sayings like that?
Metaphors?
No.
Quotes?
No.
Analogies?
No.
All right, Sean. I don't think there is a word.
Think it starts with an A.
Analogies? Ad-libs?
No.
Anonyms?
Nope.
I don't even know those are words.
Is it idioms? Why am I having such a...
Dude, they're just quotes.
We'll just call them quotes.
Metaphors, quotes, they're all...
Like age-old sayings.
Oh, there it is. It starts with an A.
No.
Age-old...
That's the definition of the word I'm thinking of.
I feel like, I love those things because they're easy to remember and they illustrate good messages to live by.
Yeah.
Most of them.
They're like proverbs.
Proverbs. Right. Lord, baby, Lord.
A stitch in time saves 9.
A stitch in time. I've never heard that one.
You've never heard that?
No.
It's basically, I think it's just like talking about like just being diligent, I think, and like upkeep. 1
is too many. 10 is not enough.
That's all for recovering alcoholics. That's true, though.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
Once you start boozing, it's tough to turn back.
Let's talk about booze, and let's talk about
booze.
In any type of like, with being an entrepreneur. I've always kind of stayed away from those things, like, and been really focused. Do you feel like those kind of things can like affect someone's success?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love it. I mean, honestly, I love partying. I love, I love that high energy. But there is a cost.
You're a sociable guy.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's it's one of those things. It's like everything in life, there's balance and moderation. You only do a little bit of heroin. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do heroin. I'm just kidding.
What kind of podcast?
Edit this out. No. No, I mean, like when it comes to that stuff, I mean, you definitely got to be careful. And that's kind of one of the dangers of having a lot of free time. Free hands are the devil's workshop.
See, you have all these sayings.
Yeah, but
here comes another saying.
Yeah, but it's true though, because that's kind of a good. That's kind of the danger of being an entrepreneur, like once you start like getting established and you have started buying your time back, is, you know, everyone knows you're around. You know what I mean? And you have time. They know you can make time.
I actually think that's a very difficult part about having your own time is
right.
There's so few.
Are you playing music?
There's some salsa music going on in the background there. It's beautiful.
I like it.
Reggaetone.
Reggaetone.
But yeah, it's everybody has jobs, you know, and everybody has budgets, and like it's hard to, you know, it's what's nice about hanging out with you. It's like, hey, want to get brunch?
Kev's around.
Kev's around.
Yeah.
Hey, want to hit the gym middle of the day? You know.
Right.
10 o'clock at night. Hey, want to go to BJ's Tavern? Get some bazookies.
Get some bazookies, man.
Shout out to BJ's Tavern.
Yep. Monkey bread.
It's crazy.
Fires.
Bro.
Walking into cellos. Salads. This lettuce is about as fresh as the women.
Oh my God. Shout out to cellos.
Shout out to Sean Brown. I got some good Shawnee Brown quotes.
Oh, you came up with a lot on that trip, I'm sure.
But yeah. No, it's definitely a danger of you have to become more responsible with your time. And unfortunately that does happen a lot, like once you start seeing some level of success and you start having more time and more money, because that's also a byproduct. It's kind of a formula. You could go off the rails with it.
Right.
And I've definitely experienced that to some level, goofing off for a little too long, and then you got to kind of figure it out. But yeah, it's good. You want to achieve a balance. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it, but you just want to be aware.
Well, that's part of it. It's like you work so hard, and you think you're working so hard so that you can like live this, more like exuberant life, or like this more luxurious life. And for me, I mean, I almost prefer just like working. I just like working, So it's like when I go on vacation, I'm usually like, I feel like I'm wasting time.
Yeah, my attitude is my work doesn't even feel like work.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, to me, I'm just...
You're not trying to scale quality, Like you're looking for the dumps. You're looking...
but it still takes a lot of... I shouldn't say it doesn't feel like work, because it does suck. Look, because like people,
What about your day sucks?
When you're looking for deals, you're putting out offers and just getting shot down. Like, and especially in this market, it is very hard. I mean, I've gotten, like, people are like, whoa, how do you get the deal? But it's like for every deal, every offer I get accepted, I have like 100 offers that get shot down, and it sucks, But when you do hit that one,
right,
it more than pays for everything else. So, it kind of sucks, because I mean, it's not like you're getting paid for that time,
That's funny because, like, you and I are pretty close, but like I don't have even that close of a view into your life where, I don't see the work that you do.
Yeah.
Maybe you feel that way about me. Maybe you don't see the work that I do.
Yeah.
You hear about it a little bit, but I don't really hear about like, you put in 100 offers and,
Yeah. Well,
I hear about the one that went through.
Right. Well, that's, yeah, I mean, right. And, yeah, because I mean, the other offer, it's like, I didn't get the deal. I just put an offer. Like, it's not fun to talk about, you know what I mean? But,
I got rejected.
I got freaking rejected again. They thought I was an idiot. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's kind of like the nuances of it's just that's my job. Like when people are like, what's your job? What do you do? I look for deals.
Oh, okay.
I get getting rejected. That too, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I look for deals. I mean, whether it's for me, whether it's for a client, I look for deals. That's it. I try to make deals happen, and that's all I do. And that, and that's not, what's nice about that, you can do that from anywhere. My thing is I want to be able to work from anywhere in the world, preferably Miami.
Yeah. I think that's where you and I differ, because it's like, I think our lifestyles are so different, where it's like, I kind of like being here, figuring out all the problems, you know,
Right.
kind of coming up with the systems. Keeps my brain working. Maybe I take a vacation or whatnot, but I'm not too big into that stuff. But to each his own.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be doing something. Like I couldn't live my life like retired. Like if I'm not
Right.
working on something, and I've been through these bouts where I haven't gotten a deal and I'm depressed as hell. Like, now I'm working on, the one I just got. Like something has to always be moving. If something's not moving forward,
Right.
like I like to have fun, but I like to earn that fun. I don't like to just do it for the sake of doing it, because then it's not fun. Like if I'm out having a good time and I know like my life's falling apart, it sucks. Like I won't go out. There's times where I won't go out, like especially in the beginning. I mean, it's getting a little easier now because I'm getting better deals and that kind of thing and more resources. So it's I'm streamlining stuff more. But like, when stuff has to get done, I'll sacrifice everything to get it done. My thing is, it's like I could never last on like a pinwheel, and I don't mean that in like a derogatory way, but like doing the same kind of. I shouldn't say like the same kind of. I mean, because I do kind of do the same kind of work, but like, I don't know, like I'm building something. If I'm not building something, like I'm doing the same kind of work, but it's like growing my portfolio. You know what I mean? Like it's growing something. Like I like my work to last like forever.
Yeah, you want to feel like you're moving.
Like it's
forward.
compounding. It needs to be compounding forward. Like I couldn't just be living like paycheck to paycheck, or like close to that. Like just I get a little bit of money and just kind of like money comes in, money goes out, and like not having anything to show for it. Like the way I look at it is like even my part-time jobs from back in the day, because I invested a lot of the money then, it's still working for me now. So I feel like none of the time has been truly wasted.
Oh, jeez. You invested a lot of money. What money? Where'd you invest it?
Oh, Shawnee Brown.
Where is this money?
Where the hell is the money?
What's the account?
So, well, in the beginning, with like Robinhood, just in stocks, like I would be putting money into Robinhood from like when I was waiting tables and working security. I would dump a lot of my money, especially because I was living at home. I was just dumping a lot of money into that account, and it's still there, still working. I never sell, never.
Must be pretty good if you went through the pandemic.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean it's right. I treat stocks the same way I treat real estate. Like I want to own as much as the game. It's a game of control. I want to control as much as I can, and then just let the markets take care of it. That's kind of how I look at it. And again, I'm young, so I'm not looking to cash out anytime soon. I'm still working, and I'm just letting it compound, and I just keep throwing more onto it.
It's almost like, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I wish I knew more about finances in that regard, because it's like, what do you do with money that you're not using? Like it should be
working for
use.
You. Yeah, to me, it's a game of quantity, right? When it comes to real estate, controlling more properties. Mm-hmm. Even if they're not, even if they're just like, singles, doubles, like they may not all be home runs, but you're controlling more. And if the deal makes sense, own it. See if you can own it, right? The same thing with stocks, controlling more shares. I want to have as many shares as possible of stocks that I believe in. And even if, up, down, sideways, I mean, the market's down now, I'm not breaking a sweat. I don't even care. I'll buy more. You know what I mean? Because I firmly believe, my outlook on all of it is I firmly believe, I believe in America, right? So if I believe in America, that means real estate and the stock market are going to continue moving forward. Maybe not all the time, but overall they're going to have an upwards trajectory. And if I'm wrong, let's say I'm wrong, in America, we get overtaken, some kind of disaster scenario, no one's going to care anyway.
Yeah, there's the disaster scenario, but there's also like, the Great Reset scenario.
Great. If that happens, you could strip me of every property I own. Mm-hmm. I won't regret a single thing because I'll have more knowledge to reacquire all of that and more.
Well, the Great Reset is like, I mean, I don't know if you know about that, but that's like more like, it's not even a conspiracy theory, but it's like.
All the resources get allocated, right?
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, they kind of just take all personal assets.
Who?
from you. This is through the economic forum. So this is like Charles Schwab.
Okay.
No, Klaus Schwab, I think his name is. And basically, like, it's a whole saying, like, by the year 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy.
Okay.
But then, you know, we'll all
Somebody
own
has to
nothing.
own it.
Yeah, the government.
What is it? Communism? It's called communism, Sean.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
I don't
just
know.
reframing it in a very positive
even if
light.
even if that's the case, like, okay, then you strip them all from me. Like to me, it's all an odds game, right?
Mhm.
What are the odds of that happening? Probably pretty slim. And even if that does happen, like,
We're all in the same boat.
we're all in the same boat anyway.
Yeah.
So I'd rather increase my odds of prosperity in the most likelihood scenario than just being like, well, you know, the government's going to probably take it all. And we're going to get nuked. We're going to,
Right,
you know,
right.
they're making the frogs gay, you know, like,
Who said that?
Huh?
What is that?
Alex Jones. You never heard of that?
No.
They're like, they're making the frogs gay. He was actually right, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, wait, go into that? What is that?
It was like,
Are you scientists?
yeah, I don't even remember what it was, to be honest. It was like some kind of, I couldn't even tell you. It was like some kind of chemical or something that scientists were using, and male frogs are like licking each other or something. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. But it turned out whatever, or like armor. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
It turned out to be true?
It turned out to be true, yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, there's a little hyperbole, I'm sure, behind it, but yeah. So I mean, even from to me, even like a nihilistic view, it's like, what else do you get? Like, I don't know. I always want to like contribute to society somehow, and like, why not? Like, I don't know. Even in a nihilistic view, if they're gonna take everything or whatever, or everything gets dispersed, or we all have to restart, like, you're still in a better position.
Isn't that what it's about, though? It's like all of life is just serving.
Yeah.
You know, you're just like helping other people.
Right.
You know, in different facets. Where I feel like with what we do here, you know, we're helping people remember like the happiest day of their lives.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, and a big goal of mine was to create a place for creatives to be able to do something that they love, you know, and like, so it's like everyone is participating in some kind of act of service.
Right. Right.
Whether they enjoy it or not, you know, some are just like, you know, hate it, but
right.
hopefully you like what you do.
Yeah. And if you don't, you got to change it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what it's really about, is serving. Like me doing what I do with the properties, you know, it's about, really at the end of the day, it's about improving the community around it. Like, that gives me joy. It gives me joy, like, to see like a dump go from a dump to somebody living in it and making it their home. You know, it's not even about when the property's just finished, like, being remodeled. It's when I walk in after somebody's, like, you know, when I walk in after somebody's, like, in there living there, like, you know, there's, like, a plant on the table. Like, to me, it just gives me, like, internal joy. Like, or seeing, like, you know, if you go by it at night and like the lights are on, like inside or something, like it's clearly somebody's like in there. Like, to me, that gives me a lot of joy. And then also seeing, like, you know, you're bringing up the value of this house. It's, you know, might encourage the neighbors to bring up the value of theirs, and it kind of helps everybody. It's a compound.
It's good too when you get a tenant who like actually cares about the place. You know,
Yeah.
They go in, they make it their own. And it's true because like, whether they're there a year, I mean, I thought I was only gonna be here a year, but I've been here like 7 years, and like,
Holy crap.
this has been a place that I've lived a good, you know what, like a fifth of my life.
Yeah. Jeez, Sean, you're getting up there.
Jesus.
Can we cut? No. It's like, Jesus Christ. Sean's having a midlife crisis, so I got the Range Rover.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, but that's what it is. And it's, I mean, obviously, like when you put together your, you know, passion, fulfillment, and an opportunity to make money, it's beautiful. That's really what it's all about.
There was like this meme where it was like, what I like to do, what makes money. And then it was like me. It was like a Venn diagram, but like the third circle of like like what I'm actually doing, like didn't intersect either one. It was like right between them.
What I'm actually doing.
Oh, it was pretty great.
It.
Maybe we could cut to that.
You want to cut? Should we drink the other Red Bull?
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Honestly, dude, my heart's already beating through my chest.
I know. I can feel that.
I feel a little. My blood pressure's definitely. I'm like freaking jerking around.
I had to go to the cardiologist. Here's the downside of business. Back in September, I had to go to the cardiologist because I was like, I thought I was gonna die.
Tell me more.
Well, turns out it was just stress.
Interesting.
You know?
Stress is one of the leading causes of death, you know.
I know, yeah.
I actually just pulled that statistic out of my keister.
It sounded good.
Yeah. Everything sounds good here at Move Mountains. No, yeah, but
a lot of misinformation going on in this podcast.
We just like to add to it.
This is just for fun.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so I mean that was kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean that sucks. It's a little surprising you went through that because looking at I remember you complaining about like certain facets of what was going on, your challenges.
Yeah,
or not really complaining, but just talking about them. I feel like you're very zen about it. You're just like
this is me off season. So on season, September, October, that's when I was going. And
yeah, but I feel like, I mean, we've gotten lunch then, and like you're just always like, you're like, bro, like when your account, the Instagram got hacked, you're like, like it's almost just like, here's the daily bullshit.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Here she comes.
Yeah, random shit. That's what
right on time.
Right on cue. I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this wall just collapses. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe you develop a threshold for these or tolerance for these kind of things.
Well, you get better at handling them too. I mean, that my life is kind of like that.
Well, that devastating thing. He had brought up that financial situation that I kind of went through.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was so
large sum. I won't say the exact figure, but it was
a large sum.
It was more than 5 figures.
5 figures?
No, more than 5 figures. 6.
No, it wasn't 6 figures. Oh yeah, no, it was over 6 figures.
Guy doesn't even freaking remember it. All right, we'll just leave it at that. But it's like this was Sean. I just wanted to talk about the FaceTime when you said how much you lost. So this is 6 figures, okay? He's like we're on FaceTime. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I just lost X amount. And I'm sitting there looking at him like, he's like, yeah, it kind of sucks. It's like it took our company 3 years to make, or in the beginning, whatever. But like most people would have like literally lost their shit.
That comparison though, like that comparison made it harder than it had to be. Like I would compare it with that, and I was just like, to make it worse, like because those beginning years of like, earning that, like those are the hardest years.
Right, and it only gets easier.
Right. So, yeah.
I was like, I didn't know what was worse. Like, especially at the time, I was like, the fact that he lost this amount of money, or the fact that you lost this amount of money, or the fact that you could afford to lose this amount of money.
Yeah, someone had found out. I don't know who said it to X person, but it got back to me, and their response was, "I hope it wasn't all he had."
What a rat bastard! Don't cut that out either, Sean. You are a rat bastard. You know who you are.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
good lesson though. Right?
It was crazy because that whole situation kind of came up. We were going through the pandemic. Well, we had lost our studio manager. This is like end of 2019. Lost studio manager. Finished out the season. Kind of got through it. 2020 hit, and I kind of was interested in getting involved in the Tesla stock, and so I bought my first stock. And then I was just like kind of caught the bug, and so I put like a large sum of money into the market. end of February, and then March the pandemic hit and the market just tanked. So it's like new investor
Right.
goes like
You get put into shock.
balls
right
to the
away.
wall into the
Right.
market, and like out of the gate. And I had read a little bit of one book on investing.
Sean was ready to stake his whole life savings.
And it was just like, oh, when the market goes down, you should buy. And so I just started buying more, and
Catch the falling knife.
and it's like you said, like I was a little bit younger, so it made sense, and my dad
Right.
was a little bit older, was like panicking, and he's like selling, and I'm buying,
not
I'm
easy,
like
too.
buying Carnival cruises, and he's like,
bro. That's the thing that's funny too, is like sometimes people are like, oh, I want to invest like my parents. It's like, dude, your parents are like on a different timeline than you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's what my dad said. He's like, you're young. He's like, you can afford to go through market dips. He's like, he needs his retirement.
Yeah. Although it probably, I mean, again, hindsight's 2020, but, yeah, I don't know. I believe heavily in the market.
Anyway, back to my
yes.
long
sorry.
string of unfortunate events.
Yes.
So lost like 30% on that investment, and then I don't even know if I'm allowed to repeat this story, to be honest.
Wait,
Anyway,
is this
so and then the pandemic hits, right? So we're like losing a bunch of business, and like
yeah.
we had 150 weddings booked. We ended up rescheduling 100 of them, and it just seemed like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. And I found a way to make some quick returns, and I was like, all right, like this could really save the company. And this
Really?
yeah.
That
I
was your
like,
reasoning behind
yeah.
it?
I was like, this could like,
shit.
I was like, I'd be able to like get out of this, like all the stress that we're going through the pandemic. Like I'd be able to give everybody like raises. I'd like really be able to do like a lot of good with this money. And so I like went in, and like within like 6 months, like lost all that money. And I don't know if it's like you said, I did handle it. I don't know if I was just kind of like went numb or whatever, but like I did handle it with a sense of just like, I was more relieved, like, because I was like, for a while I was like really kind of just thinking about it a lot,
Don't lose twice.
Yeah, that was so good today. Kevin today said, don't lose twice. And what he meant was, if you take an L, right, then don't, feel bad about it?
Yeah. So
Beat yourself up about it?
One of my mentors, shout out Mitch Axelrod.
I love that guy.
He actually he actually
Shout
was
out,
the
hey,
one
Mitch.
that said this. Hey Mitch. Yeah, he made the point, like, don't lose twice. So like if something bad happens to you, dwelling on it or thinking about it again, like, all right, something bad happens to you, you take an L.
Right.
Okay, you have one L. It is what it is, right? But if you sit there and dwell on it like the next day, now you've taken 2 L's.
Right.
Dwell on it the next day, you've taken 3 L's. So 1 L you had no, like, we'll just say for the sake of argument, you had no control over, right? Or even if you did have control over it, you have 1 L, okay?
Yep.
Those next 2, you don't have to take, like, dwelling over it's not going to fix it.
Right.
And like everybody does it, I do it too. But it's a good kind of like little mantra.
It's good to learn. I think it kind of goes back to like discipline of the mind,
Yeah.
where it's just like, you gotta get strong, like,
It's all
to stay
up
in the
here.
game. Yeah.
Right.
Because it's like life will hit you like,
Yeah, shit happens.
like I said, like I just like, I could have. It was like it was losing a good player. It was the stocks. It was
right.
the pandemic, and then this like, oh, here's my saving grace, and it's just like the nail in the coffin.
And just, yeah.
And it's just like, man, you can't catch a break sometimes. So it's like you gotta stay, like, you can't quit. You gotta stay in the game.
Right. That's what it is, and it only gets better and better, as you train yourself to be that way. It's most of it's mental. Most of it's mental, and the more you learn, and like it's good to have a sense of humor about it. And I think that's something like we share too. Like for instance, that Costa Rica trip, everything
Nothing's
went
funnier
wrong.
than tragedy.
Honestly,
Jesus.
Jeez. All right, cut. No. Nothing's fun. But I mean, I hate. I don't know. I have a dark sense of humor, and I find it more useful than
Laughter
harmful.
is the best medicine.
Look at you, Sean. You got your own freaking little
Idioms. Is it idioms?
idioms. All right, I think I'm like thinking of the word.
Right?
It's in my
Starting
head.
to come to you?
Yeah,
It's
but
like
I just call
buffering.
them metaphors, though.
Yeah, I don't know if
Quotes.
they're metaphors, but
I think they are.
idioms.
Idioms?
Idioms, that's what they are. Well, it took 45 minutes for me to think of that word.
Oh, the
I
hamsters
can't believe I
start
have a
running.
podcast.
A podcast, the #1 podcast in Rhode Island.
I can't believe I have the #1 podcast in Rhode Island.
Shawnee Brown. Yeah, so no, it definitely pays to have a good attitude. You know, you got to be able to deal with the bullshit of life because it's going to happen no matter what position you're in. You know, everything's an odds game. Put all the odds in your favor that you can. I mean, bullshit will still happen, but
I think, and if you can go through trials with a good attitude, like, I just feel like that's, like, you're going to be blessed,
yeah,
you know? Because your attitude is almost everything,
yeah, it is.
you know?
Right.
It doesn't matter if, like, you're rich and you have a bad attitude, or you have money in the bank, you have a bad attitude, like,
Not going to be happy.
you know,
Right.
you can have a crappy job, you know, you could, I don't know, but, like, if you have a good attitude, it's like, bro, like, that's what makes your day.
Right. Right. No matter where you are in life, you need to have a good attitude about it. I mean, it's going to make your whole life. It'll make relationships better. It'll make your, finances better, business better. It'll make everything becomes a higher quality, and you start to appreciate things more. The simple things in life. Like, you're not chasing, because like I feel like when you have a bad attitude too, you're always chasing other people's good attitudes, and like their good attitudes may not be. I don't know if that might not be the right way to.
I think sometimes though you do,
but
like,
you chase other people's happiness. That's probably what I'm
you
thinking
need good friends, I think, to get you, help you with your perspective, like keep you, like you said, like we kind of like laughed through that situation. It's
Right.
helpful, the Costa Rica thing. I had
It
some friends
definitely
that, like, we had some laughs about the situation, which it's still painful. I even think about it now. It's still- like, I'm like reliving like the pandemic and like all those things, and I'm just like, oh man, that was rough. That was
Look
a
where
rough
you are
time.
now.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing like better than ever.
Right. So you bounce back. It's
And you learn, like, and you have those great stories to tell.
well, that's the thing too. It makes for a good story.
Makes for a good podcast.
Makes for a good #1 podcast in Rhode Island.
All right. Got 10 questions for you. What's your favorite coffee?
You son of a. What's my favorite coffee?
No. What's your favorite coffee shop?
I'd probably say Brewed Awakenings.
Not bad.
I mean, I'm not a coffee guy, but
You're not a coffee connoisseur. I don't even think
Yeah.
you drink coffee.
no, I don't.
No.
Unless there's alcohol in it. I need a little bit of booze. Yeah, no, espresso martinis, I like them.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a coffee guy.
Hmm.
I like water.
What's your favorite breakfast or brunch place? There's only one right answer. Don't you say it. Don't you say it. Tonde's watching this. Don't you say it.
Me, Tunde, and Davey share a favorite breakfast.
Share a favorite spot.
No, I'd probably. It's tough to say, honestly. Don't you say?
Don't
It's
say
tough
it.
to say. I don't know if I have really a favorite one. Because I feel like breakfast is all the friggin' same. I don't know. I mean, I know you're like Nick's on Broadway.
Nick's on Broadway, man.
I mean, it's good.
It's
It's
great.
good. It's the atmosphere. It has good atmosphere.
What's your favorite thing to do in Rhode Island?
Favorite thing to do in Rhode Island? You mean like my favorite thing to do?
Yeah, but that you can only do in Rhode Island. It's Rhode Island's #1 podcast. I just want to give it to the fans a little
Rhode
bit,
Island's #1 pod. I don't know. Drink? No, I mean, I favorite thing to do. I don't know. I mean, I like to work. I don't know. I like looking
That's
for
good.
deals.
No,
I don't
take it.
know.
I'll take
I
it.
don't.
All right.
I should probably have more hobbies. Honestly, all I do is I look for deals and I hang out with people. That's pretty much
You're a
it.
sociable guy.
I go out, I hang out with people, I look for deals. I'll play a little bit of video game, kind of.
One time we tried to play pool.
I like pool.
Yeah.
I'm no.
Are you a
pool
beach guy?
connoisseur. I like the beach. The irony is though, I don't really go to the beach much here. And like the beach is great.
Can you swim?
Yeah,
You a good swimmer?
say moderately so. Took swimming lessons.
Solid.
Doggy paddle.
Here you go.
You throw me in the deep blue, I'll figure out a way back.
Who's your favorite comedian?
My favorite comedian, I'd probably say Dave Chappelle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Big Dave Chappelle.
He's great.
Guy. Yeah, I enjoy his shit quite a bit.
Yeah. He's nonsensical. He's no nonsense.
He's no nonsense. Yeah, he's very, and I like the way
He's a serious guy.
he's a serious guy. Yeah,
And
he's a very
funny.
roundabout way. Yeah, I love, and he's funny. Yeah, I like it when he's got like the cig hanging out of his mouth. I like him. You know who's really funny? People don't know him.
Tim Dillon.
Oh, Tim Dillon. He's up there.
I think he's coming.
He's like a modern I mean Dave Chappelle's modern too, but like Tim Dillon is friggin' hilarious.
He's so funny.
I would probably put him up there, and then I would say as like an older comedian. I mean he's dead now. Don Rickles. George Carlin's good, but Don Rickles is hilarious. That little old bastard, man. When he was on those talk shows talking shit.
Yeah, he was definitely like a smart aleck.
Yeah. Yeah, you know who he is?
Don Rickles, yeah.
Yeah. Sean's like, back in my day. Yeah, no.
I grew up with him.
Donnie R, man. Yeah, no, he's good, but yeah, definitely Tim Dillon, man. Yeah, he's
funny.
Hilarious. So
Yeah, we just saw someone at Comedy Connection. He was pretty big. He was funny. He was just on Joe Rogan's podcast. I can't think of his name. It'll come to me. Like Idiom. Another 45 minutes.
Take a quick break. No. So yeah. Yep. Are you having fun, Sean?
On the podcast?
Yeah.
That's been pretty
like,
good.
I feel like we need a third person here.
A third person might be good.
Yeah.
I never know. You know the hardest part is you never know when to wrap the podcast.
No. You probably have to kind of have like a loose time limit, I would say.
Yeah, you do. Because I feel like the podcast, like you start right and it's a little bit stiff. People have to get comfortable on it, right?
Right.
And then it kind of opens up, right? And you get a good flow going, a good conversation. But it can like break. You got to find like the footing again. And then it's going well. But then at some point, everything kind of has to close up, right? So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know if we can release any of these podcasts because I think I'm like under some kind of NDA where I can't actually talk about some of this stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't they don't know what we're talking about.
Didn't name names or anything.
No names, no numbers. I mean, the worst I said was like
I'll have to talk to my lawyer.
Yeah, the worst I said was the six digits.
Yeah.
6 figures, but it could be anything. You guys don't know what I'm
Could
talking
be anything, anyone.
about. Yeah.
All right.
Anything.
Well, Kevin, I want to thank you
Shawnee B, it's a
for
pleasure.
coming on Moving the Mountain, Creative Leadership Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
This is Agent Kevin. Kevin, why don't you give the people the digits, where to find you, how they can get in touch with you if they are looking to buy, sell real estate.
Agent Kev _ at Agent Kev _ on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook, Kevin Peloso, my other alias, or K Peloso on Instagram. And my phone. You want me to give my phone number?
Yeah, if you have a business line, or do you allow people to call you like just direct on the cell?
Yeah, I mean my contact info's on my IG, but if you want to go that way, most people they want to usually want to hop on the social first.
Yeah.
So.
All right, and that wraps. Thank you.
We're wrapped, and remember, wrap it before you. You gotta wrap it up before.